Hello aspirants, welcome back to the daily news analysis of the Hindu. This is a free initiative brought to you by Transform IAS Academy. In this particular video, we shall be looking into the articles which shall be extremely important for the civil service exam on the perspective of the prelims and the mains. So let us begin with our discussion for today. So under the front page, we have this news which talks on you may soon be able to opt out of the Aadhaar. So this is with respect to the government where it is finalizing the proposal to amend the act. So this is with respect to the Supreme Court order where it had actually upholded the law with the authorities. So based on the conditions, so here as we discussed here, now the government has been finalizing a proposal where it would be able to amend the Aadhaar act, where it gives all the citizens an option where they would be able to withdraw their Aadhaar number, including with respect to the biometrics and also the data to what they have given. So basically what is being said out here is that this is exclusive news with respect to Aadhaar, where on the Supreme Court an order what had given in the month of August. So at that point of, in the month of September, so on limelight of this was something related with respect to the Aadhaar, where the Supreme Court had issued to be an unconstitutional part. On limelight of it, now the government is also coming up with a final proposal where it is amending the Aadhaar Act, and it is also said that this particular Aadhaar Act to what is been amending, it also gives a kind of an opportunity for the citizens to withdraw their Aadhaar number. So it is not mandatory for them to have it right now, or if they wanted to even withdraw including with the biometric and the data, they can go ahead and do it. So this is the one which they had given in the month of September where they uphold the validity with respect to Aadhaar. So here the Constitution bench also decided, and it wants to struck down the section 57 of the act, which it actually allows the private entities to use the unique identification number for verification. So here the section 57 is also being struck down, and the bench has also declared that linking it with the bank account number and SIM cards are to be called as an unconstitutional. So if any person wants to link this with a bank account or the SIM card was something to be as an unconstitutional. So this is what the section 57 is all about. And apart from that, the UIDA proposal. So initially you should know that this particular proposal was brought by the Unique Identification Authority of India, where it submitted if the child turns 18, if they want to continue or if she wants to withdraw, she can go ahead and do with this particular Aadhaar. So from the time being like 6 months from the time they attain 18, they would be even having an option. So taking this into consideration, this proposal was put forth before the Law Ministry. So what the Law Ministry did was it recommended, or to whatever the further recommendation was being given on the option of withdrawal, it also ensured that why only a child who turns 18, but also it should be available to all citizens where they are not been if they are not been able to be happy with it and they want to withdraw, all the citizens can withdraw. So it's not only confined to a particular group. So this was something it was been decided of here. So you should understand that the UDIDA proposal, which initially brought this proposal stating that if the child turns 18, she can withdraw. But here, as this proposal was given to the Law Ministry, the Ministry also furtherly said that why should it only be limited to a particular group, let all the citizens have the availability so they can go ahead and they withdraw the same. So this is all about it, which means that the final proposal to amend the act is almost in the government acts, which is almost to the final stage. Once it reaches the threshold level, then definitely it will be able to allow the people to withdraw with their Aadhaar numbers or with respect to biometrics or to the data. Supreme Court order on limelight of it, this was a coverage which they had given. So it's basically on inclusion and also with respect to the exclusion. So inclusion and exclusion, which are the things would be included in the Aadhaar and which are the things which would be excluded in the Aadhaar. So on that basis, we have the part, the right ones, which talks on they are not included. For example, with respect to NEET, JEE, UGC and CBSE, so it is not mandatory for them to have this particular aspects for any sort of an exams. Secondly, it cannot insist on any on the Aadhaar for any private companies. So as per this section 57 as we discussed, so this was to be called as an unconstitutional, that the private companies, they will not be able to insist to get the Aadhaar for the same. And here with respect to Aadhaar need not be linked for any mobile phone connections. So for the SIM cards and other mobile connections, you need not do it. So it is the DOT, Department of Telecommunication, circular mandating the linking of the mobile number with the Aadhaar is illegal and also it is unconstitutional. On limelight of this is what the Supreme Court had given an order stating that the mobile phone connections need not have any mandatory requirement of the Aadhaar. And when it comes to bank account as well, the Aadhaar need not be linked because it does not meet any of the test of the proportionality. So that is one important aspects. And apart from that, we should also know with respect to school admissions, so none of the schools can even tell that they would be insisting for Aadhaar. So if they tend to do it, which means that it is something which they are doing an unconstitutional. So it is neither a service nor a subsidy. So it shouldn't be taken into considerations. And apart from that, you should also know to which is the areas they have given it. So this is the areas where the Aadhaar can be linked necessarily when it comes to the subsidies and with respect to the benefits. And when it comes to PAN card, they can also ensure the Aadhaar has been linked to it, so that for any kind of an unique identifier or anything they have to have a problem with respect to the bogus or duplicate bands, they will be able to deal with this. So that is one of the reasons to why it has been allowed. So these are the main areas where the inclusion of the Aadhaar has been happened or the exclusion of the Aadhaar is being taken place. So this was a majority statement or a judgment to what the Supreme Court had given on limelight with respect to the Aadhaar verdict. So this is all about it. So this was something in the month of September you had it. On limelight of it, there was an initial proposal to what the government had moved on. So taking that into consideration, now the Law Commission Ministry has also ensured that why not only a group of people, rather you can give available to all the citizens. So this is about it. So once it has been there with more details, you can get to know about it. So that's it. So moving on to the next news. So this one is with respect to the Mitchell remanded in custody. So this was also there in yesterday's news with respect to the AgustaWestland helicopter deal bribery case. So this was actually the Augusta middleman, Mr. Mitchell. So he's been extradited to India from UAE, that's a United Arab Emirates. So this is actually he is actually a British national. So this particular person is a British national and his name is Christian James Michael, and he had been alleged with respect to almost like 3,700 crores. So this is the kind of an amount to what is being there as a deal with respect to it, and this particular scam is dating back to 2013. So this particular scam, so you have the details here. So it is the 2013 scam which talks on to the Finn McCann, the chief Orisi, arrested by the Italian police for allegedly payoff. So CBI initiates an inquiry into the alleged kickback. So ED is also launched a probe for it, and in March 13, 2013, the CBI actually registered a case against the retired IAF Mr. Tyagi and 12 other people who have been actually under this bribery case of the helicopters which has been used for the VVIPs, very important persons. And this makes the first arrest of the lawyer Gautam, who had actually held allegedly helping to the root funds. So this person who has been there, so he was been actually helping them to how to have the funds sort of in root funds. And apart from that, in the month of March 20, 2050, the ED, that is the Enforcement Directorate, attaches an assets which is a worth of almost like 1.12 crores of the British national Christian Michael James. And here the October 9th in 2016, it came back where they arrested the Tyagi and his cousin Sanjeev Tyagi and Mr. Kaitan. So even these people were been associated with the same case, and in February 2017, that's the next following year, the authorities in UAE arrested Christian Mitchell. So he actually, the CBI makes a request for his extraditions for the same, and after that, taking that into consideration, the other peoples were also been arrested back with Tyagi and 11 others. In July 2018, that is in this year, the Enforcement Directorate actually filed a charge sheet against the 34 accused and the companies. So 34 accused and the companies have actually been charged with the charges with respect to the bribery cases on July 30, 2018. So in November 2015, a consecutive very next to it, what happened was there was an Interpol red notice issued against the Christian Mitchell. So after that only in 2016 they had to get the connections of the case and they went in for arresting the persons. But in November 19, 2018, last month, the court proceedings on the extradition request against the Christian Michael concluded in UAE, that is Dubai court, which upholds the lower court's decision for the possibility of the extraditing him. So here on those basis this person was been extradited, and now in December 4th, that is on yesterday, day before yesterday, the Christian Michael is brought back to India on a special plane. So that whatever the investigation they had to do it on the person, so that investigation would be held out here. So on limelight of it, since they have brought it to India right now, this person of the CBI to trace money with respect to it has been taken to custody. So once he has been taken into the custody, to whatever the other details they had to get with respect to this person would be dealt in detail, so that they would be able to understand who are the other prominent persons who have been there, and kinds of an other deeperness of the extraditions of the persons to whatever he opens. Based on that, the issues would be taken into consideration. So this becomes plays a role with respect to bilaterals and other extraditions. So this plays a role in your GS paper too, and this is a timeline where you need to understand how the cases are actually moved on so far. So this becomes important. Just note what had happened, so you will not be left up with any untold stories. So you can have this. So moving on to page 7, this was only 2 important coverages. So under page 7, you had this which talks on the CO2 levels poised for record high. So this is with respect to the contributions of the carbon dioxide which has been there. So this is research which was being conducted by the University of East Anglia, that is UAE, and the Global Carbon Project. So as per this, what they estimated that the global carbon emissions of 37.1 billion tons of the carbon dioxide in 2018. So there is a total times of carbon emission which has been hit an all-time record. So to whatever you are seeing right here, it has taken a all-time record with respect to 31.7 billion tons of the carbon dioxide in 2018. And you should not forget that India has also been a very big contributor, where it is third highest contributor, and it is also projected to see the emissions which has actually risen by 6.3%, and this is with comparison with respect to 2017. So when we have to take with the 2017 part, so it is almost showing an emission of 6.3%, and your global projection is being seen to be as 2.7%. This is for the global projection, where 2.7% is being seen, and this is the one which is being actually seen in terms of the usage of the coal for the second consecutive year in the row. So this is, and apart from that, there is also sustained growth in terms of the oil and the gas use. So according to the study which has been done by the University of East Anglia, so this has been there, and this particular kinds of an issue, what is being said done by this particular study, it's understood that here they would be coming up with the details on, they would be having a detailed discussions to what has been happening on the conference of the party, the 24th in the Poland. They would be discussing on the equilibrium of the carbon emissions. How is that they have to reduce it? And here you have the details where the carbon dioxide emissions have now given for a second year, as we discussed. So from this has been a second consecutive year, and again the carbon emission has been continued, and it has been the highest of all time. And you should also know like who are the biggest contributors when it comes to the emissions. The biggest contributors we have here as of 2018 are with respect to the China, USA, India, Russia, Japan, Germany, Iran, Saudi, and also the Saudi Arabia, South Korea and Canada. So these are the important 10 countries which has been called as an emitters of 2018. So all these countries is been listed out here, and you don't have to look on to the countries, but if you want to write your answers pertaining to the way you have your innovative sentence, then you can make use of these 10 biggest emitters. So as these becomes important as of now on terms of the carbon dioxide, which has been actually been a very bad polluter to the air. So if you list these names also, I think it will be better. So the choice is yours. And apart from that, you should also know that the China's emission, which is almost accounted to be as good as 27% of the global total, and it has been estimated with 4.7% in the 2018's reach. And when you have to talk about the USA, so USA is accounting for 15%, and this has been showing in terms of the globe of 2018 is almost 2.5%. And you should also know that the USA has now withdrawn from the commitment from the Paris Agreement, so that it is also devastating, where the agreement to whatever it wants to have the developing countries to control with the climate and also the global warmings and also with the emissions has not been controlled to the greater extent. So that's reason the USA becomes the 15%, wherein the highest is still the China with 27%. So you can see the list here: China, USA, then third is India, what is the biggest contributor, then followed by Russia, Japan, Germany, Iran, Saudi Arabia, South Korea and Canada. And apart from that, you should also know is with respect to the strong growth of the global carbon dioxide emissions is being seen, and it is also taking the peak right now, and it should be rapidly decreased to address with the climate change. If we are not controlling this carbon dioxide emissions, then the climate change would also have an adverse effect, and this would lead to the devastation, and peak of the problems would be associated with increase in the carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. So there is also a commitment what has been done in the Paris Agreement of 2015, where they have to keep it below 2 degrees Celsius compared to the pre-industrial level. So what they have to do is that they have to decline it to be as 50% by 2030. So with the movement or the fast involvement of these particular kinds of coal usages, it is not allowing, rather it's been the second consecutive year where the carbon emissions is been increased, and it is an all-time high, having like 37.1 billion tons of carbon dioxide in the year 2018, and they have to also reach a net zero by 2050. So if they have set this target to be as 2030 and 2050, then the company the countries also, they need to work for the same, so that they would be also ensuring that what has to be done in here. And this particular part is actually which is talking on to the air pollution, which kills 7 million every year. So it is with respect to the carbon emissions, so it is ultimately taking away towards the hairs, and it has been termed to be as an air pollution, and it is almost causing 7 million deaths. So this is a report which has been coming with the World Health Organization, and this is something they had to address it in the Conference of the Parties 24, which is happening in Poland as well. So this is something, and here the true cost of the climate change is felt in our hospitals and in our lungs. So the health burden of the polluting energy resources is now so high that moving to the cleaner and more sustainable energy supplies. So they have been looking on for this, and that is about it. So as more and more the pollution is being getting increased, hospitals are being filled, and the problems has been associated in a larger extent. So if you see here, the global CO2 emissions have risen steadily over the decades. So these kinds of questions might be asked in your preliminary examinations, like in terms of the carbon dioxide has been steadily increasing or decreasing. On one sentences they would have said that it has been steadily decreased from the decade, but it is actually increased. So you can check with your older question papers, that's how the questions are being coming. And China is the emissions with almost like 27% of the total globals. And when it comes to India, India is in the third highest contributor when it comes to the carbon emissions. So this has been there, so you can just look on to it. So, and here, although India has been rapidly going in for solar and wind power, the coal usage continues to grow strongly, and it has been reported to be as 65% of the carbon emission, which has been seen there in the part. So here the solar and wind energy power, what they are talking is respected to the International Solar Alliance, what the first meeting has been happened with respect to it in Gurugram on laminate of, though the country has been taking the steps to reduce with the coal emissions, but still it has been continued with respect to the usage of the coal is still being there. So that is what they are trying to tell out the positions from you, and that is about it. So these were the important things to what you have to know from this particular article. The most, understand who are the 10 different countries, what is the contribution level of India, who is number one, and what is the contribution they are doing it amid even having with respect to solar and the wind power. So this is about it. And the next news which actually talks is with respect to the India gets a first witness protection scheme. So this is with respect to the Supreme Court on Wednesday. It put in place the witness protection regime. So why is this witness protection regime important is because this is with respect to the PIL seeking, that is a public interest litigations which has been seeking for the protection of the rape cases, where most of the rape cases which has been happening in India, they are not been coming forward, or they become hostile as they are not been getting the proper kind of in support, or they're not being escorted well with respect to the policemen, as they have been completely been threatened by the where anyone harasser, that is an accused person, so they would not be able to control the situation. On limelight of this is what once the Asram Babu case was being on to the limelight, where most of the rape victims were being completely tortured, and they were being threatened for their life. Taking this into consideration, there was a PIL. On limelight of this is what the court had actually observed it, and they understood that it is a high time that they have to come up with a scheme where it is giving a witness protection scheme for the people who have been called as in witnesses. So this was a new kind of a scheme which has been come out, the Witness Protection Scheme 2018, and this would be coming into effect very immediately across all states. So as soon as possible they would be coming into the effect. Once they come into the effect, what is that they would be doing? So the first thing is that it is a sort of a police escort to the witnesses, which would be upon to the courtrooms, or in some complex cases they can also be involving in any organized criminal support, so they also would be getting the support from there. And apart from that, they would also be getting an extraordinary measures like offering, or with respect to ensuring to what they have to get the safe house, or giving them a new identity, so that they would be able to come out of this a kind of an threatened part. And you should also know that the witnesses are also being entitled for right to give evidence, and also to right to be protected from any intimidations or harmfulness. That is also one of the grounds to why they even accepted this protection scheme. And the right to be treated with dignity and compassion as well. So they have to be treated with dignity and compassion, and also they should be secured with waiting place while the court has been proceedings, or for the transportations, or for the lodging arrangements. So these are the facilities which has to be given for all these witnesses, so that they would be kept in a safer, so they can dispose the witness with a freeness, and also in a fearless and a truthful way, so that the accused person would be getting charges for the same, so that he will not be escaped from whatever the mistakes is been done. So on limelight of it is what this particular scheme has been brought to existence right now. So on limelight of it, here the Supreme Court has given the confirmation that here this particular scheme would be executing as soon as possible, so that the witness protections would also get the part. And you should also know that this particular scheme, it was being actually framed by the center with the consultations of the NALSA. So NALSA is nothing but National Legal Service Authority. So this is one important aspect. So based on this is only they have taken their decision, and now they have come up with the finalization, so that it will be coming into the effect as soon as possible. So this is there. The next news, it is on the big bird to take internet to villages. So we saw there before yesterday also with respect to GSAT 11, where it had actually played a very important role in providing with the broadband services which has been across the country, and it will also provide and demonstrate a new generating kind of an applications as well. So as we discussed on December 5th, it's going to get landed, and this is from the French Guiana, and it has been lifted by the Haryana fire rocket, and the mass is almost like 5,854 kgs, and the cost is 1,200 crores, and this is almost gonna get landed on 74° east with almost like 36,000 kilometers away, and it has almost carried like 40 transponders with KUKA bands, and it has a 16 gigabits per second, and it has been expected to have almost like 15 years of the lifetime. So it's been expected, and these are the important applications areas to where it would be used. So these things we have covered in detail on yesterday. So on limelight of it, as it has been shifted now, and it has been landed, so that information is being given out here. That's it. So that this would be providing with a broadband connectivity to the rural and the inaccessible villages with respect to the panchayats under the BharatNet. Understand to whatever the internet to villages is been happening right now with respect to the help of the GSAT 11. So this is taking the schemes all over is with respect to the BharatNet, which is a part of the Digital India initiative. On limelight of this is what we have this particular kinds of an GSAT which has been put on, and this is about it. And you should also know this is the heaviest of all time what the NASA has built. So this is being built by NASA, so this is the heaviest one, and they also tell it is almost like 6 tons class big bird in space. So that's about it. And apart from that, you should also know that along with this, the GSAT 29 and GSAT 19 were the smaller satellites already launched from within India. So this is with a new era of satellites which is driven to the reliable high throughput with respect to data services, so that the villagers would be able to remote it the locations and the VST operators. And here the main kind of a benefit is it's going to be the direct private and the public sector data services would be the main gainers. So as their works becomes more and more, they would be able to get the gains from this kinds of an internet projects to what has been given by the ISRO GSAT 11. So what we discussed yesterday, the same thing is also being discussed out here. So since we are already done, so need not go in detail. So as I said, this kind of a cut copy paste would be sufficing each and every time when you go through with that. That's it. So by this we'll move on to the next news. So this Oxon Center may bring back the curbs in Andamans. So we know that the center had earlierly given with lifted on the month of August the 29 islands under the area permit, that is restricted area permit, included the North Sentinel, because the main ideology is that was they wanted to promote the tourism. To promote the tourism, the RAP was being lifted, but right now after the incident what had happened in North Sentinels with respect to Mr. John Allen Chow, as he lost his life, the US citizen, on lamlet of it, now the center has been rethinking that this particular kind of a lift to what they have done on the restricted area permit, it might bring back the curb, so that they wanted to ensure that no other deaths would be happening for the same. So that is all about it. To whatever they had done it earlierly, now they have been deciding that, so it is a time that they have to rethink and they have to do. So even before they have been rethinking, they have to also think it on the tourism, which might also be affected, and the ideology to why even they lifted the ban was to promote the tourism. So if they are taking it back, so are they prepared to take up with the losses to what is going to happen in terms of the tourism? The government need to think about it. So this is about it. So this they have been deciding right now, but once they have done, you will get to know about it. So at that point of time, again we can deal it in detail. So this is about it. Again, this news is a continued news. So under page 13, you have this, the Reserve Bank stands pat on rates. So this is with respect to the Reserve Bank of India. As we discussed even yesterday, it is actually having the repo rates with the same area with 6.5%, because it's not ready to change it with respect to the policy review to what the RBI would be doing on the monetary policy review. So here it's stating that here the key interest rate or the repo rate is been unchanged with almost like 6.5% from the 5th bi-monthly monetary policy review. So this has been there, and here there are 6 members in the monetary policy committee. So as per the 6 members, they have been voted in favor of the status quo on the repo rate, while only one member, that is was Mr. Dolakia, he voted for change in stance for neutral. So this person from from very quite a long time itself, wherever there is a policy committee which they come up for an understanding for a majority voting, he always been restraining and he always stays in the neutral. So even this time he has done the same thing, though the members are 6, 5 members have been given in favor with respect to status quo, what they wanted to maintain with the repo rate to 6.5, only this person has been termed to be called as a neutral link. So it is actually 5:1. So that is about it. And here they also spoke that the RBI governor was also made a statement that they would be ready to take any policy actions if there is any upside risk to the inflation which did not materialize. So this is something they had given. So incoming data is reflecting based on that. If it is not materializing, then there would be an upside risk of the policy actions to what they have to take for the same. And you have the consumer price inflations out here. So here you have the inflations to what they have given with respect to CPI year on year, quarterly projections, and also the GDP growth which has been given in detail. So this is on that. So you can just look on from how to how it has been gone. This is there, and in the month of August 2017, and this is for the December 2018. So it was only 6% for the last year, and now it has been from almost for 5 bi-monthly, it is still been remained with almost like 1.5% itself. So here the RBI has not been ready to change the repo rate stance. And you should also know with respect to the prices, why the based or the consumer price index has been seen with a declining is with respect to oil prices which has been declined. So there is a sharp fall with the oil prices with almost like 30% decline in the crude oil prices. So taking this into consideration only, we are actually finding the advantage of this particular aspects. And here the GDP growth rate is actually been decided to retain to 2018-19 at 7.4 percentage as estimated to 7.5 percentage. So here the RBI has also decided another important aspects where they wanted to keep the RBI since a GDP growth rate of 2018-19 to 7.4 percentage. So what they have estimated for the first financial year, this is about it. So earlier it was 7.5 to what they estimated, now it is 7.4 percentage. And when it comes to the central bank is also, when it talks on to the statutory liquidity ratio, so you should know the term statutory liquidity ratio. This is something where the bank should maintain the liquidity within themselves. CRR, where the bank should keep a certain amount, percentage of the amount with the RBI, but here the percentage of the amount the bank should keep it within themselves. So here the banks, to whatever the amount they have to keep within themselves is with respect to 18 percentage, and this is been reduced from 19.5 percentage. So this is the net demand and time liabilities. Based on that, 25 basis points has been reduced. So here the center has been reduced a statutory liquidity ratio from 18 percentage to from 19.5 percentage to 18 percentage. So that's about it. So on total, the repo rate has not been changed, right? So repo rate has not been changed, and the SLR has been reduced with almost like 25 basis points. So each year it's been reduced and it's been now 18 percentage. That's it. So this again, if you are repeatedly doing your newspapers, so you know like what we are talking on. So if you are doing it for the first time, again there might be a challenging with respect to it. So you have to know the continuation of the story, so that the further stories become so simple that you have to take only one point and keep making your notes. So that's how you need to go with when it comes to your current affairs, and this plays a very important role on the GS paper 3. So this is on with respect to stability over the instability of the economy. So what is RBI trying to do to get the stability on the instability in the economy, what has been happening right now. So this is, so you can just look on to these two. So moving on to page 14, which talks on the RBI ready to stand as a lender of last resort. So this is basically with respect to the NBFCs, which is now under the great crunch of the liquidity crisis, as most of the NBFCs have been having a struggle. But here what the RBI is saying is that the RBI is ready to stand as a lender for the last resort. So here it is with respect to the government, which is actually asking the RBI for a special window for the NBFCs, and NBFCs was been under the struggle of the liquidity crisis. And what the RBI stand is that RBI makes it very clear that here the NBFCs are of three sectors. One is for the large, small and the medium. The large and the large NBFCs are not under the problem, are absolutely not under the problem, wherein the medium and the small NBFCs are the ones who are under this trouble. So here for the medium and the small NBFCs, what they can do is they can use all kinds of resources or to the assets to what they have to get, and they can look on for the loans and they can get their work done. But here it's not that RBI would be helping them in the first instance itself. They have to look on for all kind of sources and they have to come out of the problem. But any which ways, if at all, if the problem is still not resolved with the NBFCs, then RBI would always be ready to stand as a lender only for the last resort. But without doing any of the moves from the NBFCs for looking out for a loan by either selling the assets or looking for any kind of a thing, without doing for a short term time in the money market, if they are only looking out for the RBI to support them, the RBI would not be doing that. So that is what the main concerns out here. So on limelight of it is what the Deputy Governor of RBI, Viral Acharya, is said that the central bank is ready to stand as a lender as a last resort. But as of now, they would not be doing it, or it is not a big problem where the NBFCs is being actually facing right now. So this is under the assessment itself. It is not where the sector has been actually facing a severe kinds of a crunch, but it is still confident that it can get back well and the health of the economy would not be affected in a larger extent. So here they are saying that if something really goes bad, RBI would be there to help, but without you all doing anything as a initial kinds of steps, the RBI would not be helping them, or no special window would be given for the same. So this is about it. And you should also know the last week we also discussed with respect to RBI giving with a minimum holding period. So that minimum holding period MHP was from 1 year, where they have reduced it to 6 months, so that as soon as possible they can dispose their assets and they can also get the income or the amount from that, and they can ensure that the NBFC problems can be sorted to a larger extent. So that was there. So this is about the entire news to what is being dealt with the NBFCs. But you should also know to what is an NBFC. So NBFC is nothing but a non-banking financial company. So this is a company which has actually been registered under the Companies Act 1956, and here this kinds of companies are being engaged with respect to the loans and also the advances, acquisition of the shares, stocks, bonds, debentures, securities which has been issued by the government or by a local authority. But understand, the NBFCs would not be taking part in anything with respect to either agriculture, industrial, or for any of the selling and the any kinds of an assets where it can be doing it off. Nothing as such. That's that it has to ensure with the shares, the stocks, the bonds, the debentures, the securities which has been issued by the government or by the local authority. And you should also understand that here the NBFCs lends and make the investments, and their activities are similar to that of the banks, right? So whatever the activities the bank does it, even the NBFC also would be doing the same thing. It is as similar to what the bank does it, but there are certain landmarked differences between the NBFCs and the banks. First and foremost, the banks accepts the demand deposits, but here the NBFCs, they do not accept the demand deposits. And second thing, they do not part a form of the payment and also the settlement system, and they cannot even issue checks which has been drawn by itself, right? So they will be doing the work as good as banks, but just that they will not be accepting the demand deposits and they will not be even accepting the checks. Second, thirdly, the deposit insurance which is being facilitated under deposit insurance of Credit Guarantee Corporation would not be available to the depositors to the NBFCs, unlike in case of the bank. So if suppose the deposit insurance facility has to be given for the bank where the people deposits the amount, they would be under the DICG, that is a deposit insurance credit guarantee, but any other persons who has been depositing under the NBFCs, he will not be under the ambit of the DICG, that is a deposit insurance and the regulate guarantee corporation. So this is about it. So these are the basic informations that you have to know about the NBFC, National Banking Company. So this has been there, and this becomes very important as ILNFS issue has been there, or we have with respect to the aspect to what has been happening on the NBFCs, or with respect to special window or a drift between the government, between the RBI, and all those things is started only after the Viral Acharya gave a statement on that, and also on the ILFS issue. So this becomes important for us to understand what is NBFC, as this covers an important part for your preliminary examination and also for your main examination under your GS3. So GS3 plays a very important role when it comes to your mains examination. So this is about it. So just go through with them. And moving on to page 18, you have this news which talks on in a first baby born using a uterus from a dead donor. So this is with respect to technology which has been gone to a different aspects, where there was a time where the mother who had any kind of a problem with a uterus, so they would not be able to give birth, and they had to either move on for any succusations or for any kind of an donor or for an adoption. This used to be only two kind of an areas where a person who was not able to get pregnant or not been able to give a birth, they have to move on for. But now it is understood that in the Brazil to whatever happened, so there was a breakthrough operation where they actually transplanted the uterus of a living donor, from the living donor to the patient that had been given, and after that there was a birth of the kid which had happened back in 2016 in Brazil, and much earlierly you can see and witness it in a successful childbirth which had happened with a uterine transplantation with a living donor which took place in 2014. So this was actually made a track record in respected to Sweden. So from 2014 to 2018, it's almost like 10 such kinds of transplantations which has been happened. But here if you see, the donor is a dead donor. We are not taking it from a living donor. So here it was a kinds of a study which was being done. Is it really possible to take the uterus transplantation or to do this when the donor has been dead? So on laminate of it, the baby was born using the uterus from a dead donor, where even this study has become an important outcome and a milestone to the medical field. So this for the first time the mother who had been received a uterus transplantation from a dead donor, and she also gave a birth to a healthy baby, and this is a photo of it, and the baby is being very healthy, and this particular uterus was being taken from a dead donor, which means that now the uterus transplantation can be done with respect to the living and a dead donor as well. So this was after the consecutive and a number of studies which is being done. Now this has also been a successful part. So this is about it, and understand which was a play of when was this first started in 2014, in 2016 it happened, and now this is a study which has been successful with respect to a dead donor as well. And that's it. So that is the main outcome out here. If you have to know anything more detail in terms of infertility which affects the couples, like how percent to what percentage, and problems and other associated issues, you have it out here. So mainly they tell that why the uterus problems would be more is because with respect to malformation or with respect to infection that actually prevent the women to get pregnant and carry out the child to the term till they get the part. So this has been there. So number of people are now willing and committed to donate the organs up to their own death after they have been moving on to the living donors. So this is with respect to your science and technology, which is being covered under your GS paper 3 again. So GS paper 3 plays a vital role when it comes to these aspects. So that's it. So by this we have come to an end of the video. So these were the important articles for the day. We hope this video will help you in your preparations, and again please do remember, only you can change your life and no one can do it for you. So work hard till you accomplish and you make your dream come true. Thank you and have a nice day.